Today, I want to talk about differences in laws. And so we categorize laws based off the seriousness and consequences of the behavior. So not all crimes are created equal. Stealing a car is not the same thing as jaywalking, just like forgetting to do your homework isn't the same as punching me in the face because you didn't like the grade you earned. The criminal justice system sorts these differences into neat little boxes: infractions, misdemeanors, and felonies. But on top of that, we've also got state laws, federal laws, and even civil versus criminal law. It's like law has its own version of Netflix categories. First up, infractions. These are the legal system's way of saying you messed up, but we don't hate you for it. Think speeding tickets or running a stop sign. Infractions don't come with jail times, just fines. Basically, the law's version of getting grounded, but still allows the use of Wi-Fi. The next level is misdemeanors. These are more serious and they can land you with fines, probation, and even up to a year in jail. So things like petty theft, assaulting someone, or even a DUI. It's the legal middle ground, not quite the worst thing you could do, but serious enough that you may want to call your mom and say, "Hey, I might need a bit of bail money." Felonies are more serious. These are the big ones: murder, arson, kidnapping. Felonies can mean more than a year in prison, supervised probation, and long-term consequences, like losing the right to vote or even losing your firearms. In other words, you're not just in trouble, you're in capital letter TROUBLE. So in general, misdemeanors are for crimes where the punishment is serving up to a year in jail, while felonies are more serious and carry a consequence of potentially 1 year or more in prison. We also have state laws and federal laws. Every single state is a separate sovereign, which means they make their own rules. State laws are created by each state's legislature and apply only within that state. This is why something legal in one state might be illegal in another. So like smoking weed may be legal in Colorado, but under federal law, it's still technically illegal. And when state and federal laws contradict, federal law usually wins. Uncle Sam doesn't like being in second place. Federal laws, these are made by Congress and apply to the entire country. If you commit a federal crime, you're not just breaking Colorado's law or Texas's law, you're breaking the United States law. And federal laws usually kick in when cases cross state lines, involve federal agencies, or touch on national issues like drug trafficking that crosses borders, bank fraud or wire fraud because banks and the internet operate across state lines, immigrant violations, and even terrorism and major organized crime. And to describe federal versus state law, I like to use this case study. So on October 8, 2008, in New Orleans, Louisiana, Ramen Mogiles and his buddy Byron McCoy wanted to buy some weed from Mogiles' friend that he had met in college, Eddie Pugh. So Mogiles goes over to Pugh's house and goes inside, but Pugh doesn't like that he brought someone with him. He sees that McCoy is waiting outside, and so as soon as Mogiles walks to the door, Pugh knocks him out and ties him up with a telephone cord. You know, a perfectly reasonable way to handle visitors. McCoy is in the car for a while wondering what's up, so he goes up to the house, and when they let him in, he also gets pistol whipped and tied up. Pugh and his buddy, Baron Borden, then load Mogiles and McCoy, who were both unconscious, into an SUV and drive them across the state line into Mississippi. And that's where things get even worse. So Pugh ends up shooting McCoy twice in the head. Mogiles somehow manages to fight back and escapes into the woods and is just covered in blood. Pugh keeps shooting at him, but eventually Mogiles gets away and flags down a passing school bus because nothing says memorable field trip like a bleeding man climbing on board. I don't know what you guys did on field trips. I went to a fish hatchery, but we never came across someone who was bleeding and screaming for help. So police later found Pugh and Borden standing next to the burning SUV with McCoy's body inside. And at this point, they are charged with several different types of crime: aggravated assault, kidnapping, arson, and murder. But the important question is, which court handles this, federal or state? So the initial assault and kidnapping happened in Louisiana, but the murder and arson happened in Mississippi. Crossing state lines makes the kidnapping a federal crime. So Pugh was first tried in federal court for kidnapping and got life without parole. But that didn't stop Mississippi from filing its own charges. At the state level, Pugh faced murder, aggravated assault, and arson charges, and resulted in life without parole. 2 courts, 2 sentences, 0 chance of parole. And this case shows how our system works. So state prosecute crimes that happen within their borders. The federal government steps in when crimes cross state lines, involve federal law, or impact national interests. And yes, you could be tried in both state and federal courts for different aspects of the same incident. So when people ask, what is the difference between state and federal law? The answer is right here. New Orleans assault, Mississippi murder, and a federal kidnapping charge tying it all together. And we also have different types of law, such as family law, civil law, and even criminal law, but we're only going to talk about the latter two. So criminal law is about prohibiting crimes. It describes what acts are illegal and what the process should be if someone violates them. It's like society saying, do this and you will face these consequences. Civil law is all about disputes between individuals or organizations, so usually over money or obligations. The goal isn't to lock anyone up, it's to compensate the harmed party. So examples of civil law is, if there's a car wreck caused by another driver, you could sue them for medical bills. A company puts out a harmful product like tobacco or scalding coffee, and you get burned, literally. Another could be breaking a contract, like backing out of a business deal, or someone could spread lies that hurt your reputation. That's slander if spoken, libel if written. Either way, you can sue them civilly. So, in general, infractions are minor slip-ups. Misdemeanors are mid-level offenses that can get you up to a year in jail. And felonies are the legal version of boss level. You can get up to a year or more in prison. State laws vary, federal laws override, and civil versus criminal is all about whether the outcome is punishment or compensation. So next time you hear about a lawsuit in the news, you'll know whether someone's facing fines, prison times, or just a very expensive lawyer bill.